Hello and welcome to the final Superstart Select of 2011. It's not because we don't love you, it's not because we don't care. It's because, just frankly, after a year of doing this with Seb, I can't fake the pretend friendship anymore.
I actually made this for Johnny.
Shut up. Anyway, this year has seen tons of awesome games come into our lives and brighten an otherwise lonely and pathetic existence. But because these games are busy soaking up all sorts of awards this Christmas, we're going to acknowledge the very best in video game trailers instead. What more could you possibly want for Christmas?
I'm getting a unicorn, none of this horse with a carrot stuck on its head like last year.
That was a horse?
Yeah.
Well, had I known, I wouldn't have eaten it in the last desperate bid for eternal youth.
But first, if you're living in Japan, then basically you're one lucky son of a bitch, and we hate you. Not just because you've got this.
That's right, this weekend sees the release of Final Fantasy XIII-2, which follows Final Fantasy XIII-2, the tutorial, simply known as 13. And that's not all. Japan also gets its hands on the latest piece of expensive Sony poser technology, otherwise known as the PlayStation Vita.
Sadly, those of us in the West will have to wait until next year for some crazy reach-around touchscreen fun.
Hold up there, Seb. Wait 1 minute. I've actually come up with a way of experiencing the PlayStation Vita today, and anyone at home can actually experience this for themselves.
Whatever you have to say, it's definitely terrible.
Wait, hear me out, or rather, see me out. Behold!
That's a PSP crudely taped to an iPhone.
Exactly, pretty much identical. In fact, I'd wager most people probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
And you know what? That's actually pretty cool.
See, it's actually slimmer and lighter than the actual Vita. You're welcome, Sony. Good news today for fans of people seeing other people making a crap ton of money. Zynga, the maker of social games such as Farmville and Mafia Wars, has let loose its initial public offering, selling 100 million shares for $10 each. Now you do the maths on that, and that makes it the biggest US internet company since Google raised a stonking $1.9 billion in its famous 2004 IPO.
Shares! NASDAQ! IPOs!
That's right, Seb. Monies. It all means that Zynga is now valued at nearly $9 billion, eclipsing even the mighty EA, which currently has a market cap of around $6.93 billion. The company now boasts 54 million daily active users, which is just slightly fewer than the number of visits to Seb's MySpace page.
We've seen games come and we've seen games go, from the dizzying highs of Skyrim, Portal 2 and Deus Ex, to the crippling disease-filled lows of Thor, God of Thunder, Duke Nukem and Transformers Dark of the Moon Stealth Force Edition. Because nothing says stealth like giant transforming robots silently transforming into a quiet little juggernaut truck after serenely crash landing from space.
But forget what the critics say, you guys are the gamers, and as such, you're blessed with a unique ability to accurately review games purely from a single trailer and nothing else. Ever accommodating to the needs of the masses, we present to you the very best video game trailers of 2011. We'll take your review scores in the comments.
Check out this trailer for our trailers of 2011 feature. Roll trailer.
All right. Trailers. We love them. I'm going to have a run at it because I haven't read any of this out loud before.
Looks rubbish. 6.
Trailers, we love them, really we do. Never mind that when you get right down to it, they're just video advertising no less cynically engineered than any other kind of ad to coax cash money out of your wallet and into the coffers of the publisher pushing the game in question. Never mind that, we still love a good trailer, mind you. We're pretty discriminating. You can't just, I don't know, smash together some shiny graphics and, I don't know, something sexy and some explosions and whack on a dirty dubstep soundtrack to to impress us. Because though we can't get enough of any of those individual items, a really memorable trailer has something special. That's why, as 2011 draws to a close, it's time to ask the GameSpot UK team for its favourite trailers of the year, and what it was that set them apart. So, Danny, tell us, what was your favouriteest trailer of 2011?
This is my favourite trailer of the year because, unlike most trailers that came out this year, this was completely made up of just gameplay footage from different perspectives over and over again. It was the most honest trailer of the year, and it was one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen. I watched it 1,000 times. The reason I like the Caspian Border multiplayer trailer for Battlefield 3 was, well, apart from the fact that I actually really love those games, is that the editor, whoever it was so clever to show perspectives from different people on the battlefield, from the different troops and guys in tanks and jets and stuff. Obviously it was supposed to be a showcase for the game itself. A lot of that stuff hadn't been shown before, neither in the map. But more importantly to that, it showed what it's like playing a Battlefield game where there is loads of different individual stories happening within the same confined space, and it also helps when you've got an amazing soundtrack. And of course they had this like crazy 21st century version of the soundtrack that's been used in all the Battlefield games, and I think I spent like every lunchtime for like 2 weeks watching that over and over again.
So the thing about this trailer which made it really stand out for me for the whole year is because the way in which it combined an amazing soundtrack, great song, with, you know, like kick-ass awesome visuals, which I've never seen anything that good in a trailer before, and it just went together so well, and yeah, I loved it.
Deep in the ocean, dead and kissed away.
So right from the offset of the Assassin's Creed trailer they showed at E3, I mean, you start with this brilliant kind of drumming and building up with the music, and then you see Ezio being kind of dragged through this dark place by all these soldiers, and then it starts to show you his journey to get there, and it's full of some amazing visuals of him on boats and climbing mountains and looking out in his classic kind of Ezio pose. And then when the song kind of breaks, you get this fantastic slow motion action sequence, choreographed fantastically, and I don't know, it's one of those things that you watch and it gives you like tingles up and down your spine, and then it ends really nicely. The music cuts completely and you hear the eagle noise, and then he just turns around and elbows that dude in the face right when the drum beat comes back in. As a piece of video, that was just standout for me.
Okay, so I think this definitely has to be my favourite trailer of the year because it had everything you could really want from it. Romance, intrigue, danger and adventure. Given that most trailers these days are full of drum and bass things going wow wow, or Battlefield 3 noises going bah, bah, it was nice to have something understated for once. Yes, it didn't have big explosive gameplay in it, it didn't have any gameplay in it at all, but it gave you a really good idea of the kind of sensibility they were coming from with their humour. It also gave you fun facts. I, for one, didn't know that 4 out of 5 people are crushed every day by a giant diamond falling from the sky.
So the reason I love this trailer is because it's just high action, intense sci-fi craziness from start to finish. At the beginning you're like, what? And by the end you're like, what?
You wired me awake and hit me with a hand of broken nails.
So mostly the reason that I love the Prey 2 trailer is that I actually wasn't expecting it. I didn't even know much about Prey 2 before I watched it. And I actually sat down, saw it, and was just like, that was freaking awesome. You're in this dystopian future where it's kind of Blade Runner meets Deus Ex meets Mass Effect meets like Mirror's Edge future, where you're just cruising around, busting chops because you're clearly the law, and these dudes are all like getting up in your grill and you're like, I'm gonna chase you. And then he's all like, and like running through these mad scenes, and then you bust out like your gun and you're shooting people up and you're like, oh, this is insane. And this dude's all like, I got away, and you're like, no. and then you've got this wicked, like, arresting, like, brick that you shove into his chest, and he's all like, no, and then he's all like gone. Oh, it's just, that was freaking awesome. And then, just in case you hadn't had a good enough time, it turns around and they throw in a bit of Gears of War in there with a, like, Brumac looking dude that's all like, I'm gonna mess you up. And then, well, I don't know, he might mess him up, but it was freaking sweet.
So the thing about this trailer and why it's, you know, one that's memorable for me isn't that it's the greatest trailer in the world, or even for, you know, it was for a good game, don't get me wrong, but it's the juxtaposition between the music and the action is crazy. It's basically epic fighting set to a namby-pamby, wimpy, useless indie shoegazing soundtrack. So, you know, when the trailer kicks off, you know, you see Dom, and he's fighting a bunch of dudes, and there's explosions happening, and it's all really interesting. But it's set to this music, which is basically just this really, really whiny indie music. And I know Gears of War's done this in the past. They've used Mad World to set to their trailers. I'm not so sure that putting, you know, namby-pamby indie music on a trailer that's filled with action necessarily makes it heartfelt and emotional. It does not. It just makes you very, very pretentious. But there's some cool stuff that happens later on. You know, there's a giant spider thing that rises out of the ground, and it's kind of fun, and there's lots of chainsaws, and then the water floods up, and that's really cool. But all the time you got this plinky-plonky acoustic guitar with someone singing about ashes or something. And, you know, it's basically like if you got Flower and then set that to a heavy metal soundtrack. That's not going to make it a hardcore game. Oh, one more thing, the end. Brothers to the end, and then you fade out the rest and just leave the end. Nah, come on. It's just a bit much, isn't it?
Alright people, my trailer is probably the biggest one of 2011, made a massive splash at the busiest time of the year, even when massive games were coming out, so let's take a look. What do we take away from the trailer? It's going to be in Los Santos, we know that for sure. It's got pictures of Los Santos, it's got graffiti of Los Santos, but the interesting thing that the trailer seems to be pointing at is this economic climate, which it might, you know, pastiche a lot of stuff that's happening in the world at the moment. Lots of buildings coming up, lots of economic development, and then at the bottom level you've got homeless people everywhere, you've got people begging for money, and that's set against the private jets flying everywhere. In terms of missions, you can see it's going to have crop dusting, I'm sure. You've got a sort of homage to the Grand Theft Auto 4 mission where you rob a bank, so I'm sure that's going to be in there as well. So the trailer's got a good amount of detail, what might be in there, while leaving it open so we can see what, you know, how wide is it going to go, how big is it going to go, and lots of hints of whether there's Tommy Vercetti in there, is there CJ in there from San Andreas. So all in all, classic trailer, classic Rockstar, and very well done.
But never mind them, what about you? We asked the GameSpot community which game trailer was their most memorable of the year, and the votes stacked up like this. In third place was Cam's personal favourite, the Assassin's Creed Revelations cinematic promo, starring Slow-Mo Ezio and moodily soundtrack with a Gallic indie charm of Woodkid's Iron, proving how a spot of powerful music can take a good trailer and make it great. In second place, we find the stirringly shouty Skyrim trailer, the one that combines stern narration, a rousing score, and the dragon shout that launched 1,000 hilarious YouTube videos with awesome effect. But on top of the heap came a trailer that had everyone and their mum talking back in February. For a brief few backwards running moments, we set aside our cynicism about not actual gameplay trailers to embrace the simultaneously poignant and gruesome little number that announced zombie kill 'em up Dead Island. Though the finished game didn't feature the ill-fated family, well, not really, or quite capture the same sense of loss and desperation, there's no arguing with this as a truly tremendous game trailer. Good job there. Watch all the GameSpot UK team's favourite trailers of the last 12 months in full, run along to the URL on screen and tell us all about your most memorable in the comments. Of course, for every trailer that made it into the winner's circle of Team GameSpot's personal favourites, there are dozens more worthy and not so worthy offerings. Trailers of 2011, we salute you.
I never asked for this. Another girl I had been trying to protect.
Michael!
Michael.
When the Templars murdered my family, when the whole bloody world's gone crazy.
Hellcat, Sector 9!
Michael!
Whenever we're done with an episode of Start Select, Guy and I hover our fingers over the F5 key, refreshing incessantly to see your beautiful, glorious feedback.
Yes, your feedback has it all. Lively discussion, words of encouragement, and then strange admissions that make us question the very sanity of humanity. Like regular contributor Captain Rex Kramer, who admitted this on the subject of marriage in Skyrim. Marriage? I got married in real life. I'd rather kill and whore about as opposed to getting married in a game. But that's just me. Good idea, Captain. Might I suggest you keep it that way round for the time being.
Next up, champion jockey and master blacksmith Sawshoe saddles up for a lawsuit. The matrimony pony inevitably leads to the divorce horse. That's too bad, Sawshoe, but why not jump down off the Sorrow Stallion and hop on the, Hope Goat?
That's not a real thing. User I Got Epics is sick and tired of Capcom's meddling with the protagonist in the Dead Rising game. He says, another new protagonist? Why can't we just stick with Frank? I mean, everybody missed him in Dead Rising 2, then most people thought his story in Off the Record was more interesting than Chuck's. That's funny, I Got Epics. Chuck doesn't have a bad word to say about you.
But Lazy Gamer X does have some words for the zombie bashing sequel. Dead Rising 3, don't get me wrong, it's an okay game, but the time limit on getting the little girl her meds was infuriating. It ruined the game for me. Take out the time limits and add some new aspects to the game and it'll be a better game.
Now time for some facial feedback, specifically facial feedback about Seb Ford. User blah 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 999 says, I only just noticed Seb has a beauty spot. That outsexies Cameron's accent. I have absolutely nothing useful to contribute. I like pancakes.
No way, I like pancakes. Man, we should totally be best buds.
Not before we read out this last piece of optimistic joy from R6RAR69 to see out the show nicely into this most festive season. He says, GS UK looks better and more fun to me with great buddies for Start Select shows and they nice accent and great humours and news and everything. It's great in my opinion. They more looks like friends.
All we want and all we need is each other before the day is gone. We sing our song and we work things out together. We know our time has come.
Alright, that's the end of the show, and it's the end of Super Start Select for 2011.
But fret not, we still have daily updates Monday to Thursday next week.
So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.
My darling, can't get enough of your love, baby. What was that song about Barry White? Barry White. Made love to your ex-wife. Barry White.
I can honestly say I've never...
Yeah, just Google this. Super Start Select Turbo Edition. That's what we should call it. Exactly. Introducing 4 new characters.
Oh yeah, got this for background.
To the roster. Oh God, it's cold.
What are you doing?
Japan also gets its hands on the latest piece of expensive Sona poser technology, otherwise known as the PlayStation Vita.
You said sonar.
You did.
Did I?
You said Sona.
So like Sona, like Sona posing technology, like yeah, exactly. Looking out for submarines.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna go bigger. Looks rubbish. 6.
You're right, that was bigger.
That was bigger.
That out-sexies Cameron's access. Access
Access
to what?
his butt.